I knew there was something wrong when I was in the 2nd grade. I went up to my teacher and I said to her, I know you're really, really upset. Your husband left you last night, but he's going to come home in a week, and it's going to be okay. Okay, that divided me out. I congratulated my gym teacher on her new pregnancy. She wasn't married, in front of everyone. I worked on my first murder case when I was 12 years old with the police. They came to me. Now that's odd, isn't it? Okay. What happened was I had developed this strange reputation. I can't understand why, but they came to me and they said, your classmate has disappeared, and we think that he came to see you, and we don't know what's happened to him. Well, the young man, his name was Harry Lance. They pulled out a photograph and they put it in my hand. And I said, well, number one, he would never come to see me because we don't like each other. And when they put that photograph in my hand, all of a sudden, I saw Harry in the woods with a gun, a rifle, and a young Hispanic man with a rifle behind him. And they were walking, hunting. And the young Hispanic man hit a rock and he stumbled. When he stumbled, the gun went off and shot Harry in the back. He didn't mean to, it was an accident. So I told the police, I'm like telling them all this. And they're going, well, where's his body? I said, it's over there in the woods. Well, where over there? Way over there, behind his house, about a half a mile behind his house. Can you take us there? I don't think so. It's not close to where I am. It's close to where he lives. They found Harry's body, half a mile in the woods behind his house, shot in the back. The Hispanic boy got off. Yeah. So that was the beginning for me. I began to develop a reputation. When I was 16, I stopped a network of prostitution and drug that went about 5 states. There was a young woman that came up to me, and I didn't know her. She said, you can help me. Please help me. I'm in terrible danger. I said, okay, sure, no problem. I said, what's happening? She said, I'm being used. This man, Nick Satan, of all the names in the world, I've got to get away from him. I said, okay. So I meet this Nick Satan, and he's crippled from polio. And I look into his soul, and I see this broken, sad man. And he opens up to me, and he starts telling me everything that he's doing, which is kind of crazy. And I go, Nick, you need help. You need help. And I said, you really need God in your life. He said, oh, I wish I had God in my life, but God hates me. Look at me. I'm crippled. I said, but look what you're doing to these girls. He was trucking 10, 15 women around in trucks as prostitutes and for drugs. Well, a friend of mine in school, his mother was an FBI agent. So I went to her, and I told her what was going on. And she followed up. She believed me, which was amazing. And we followed up, and I met with Nick Satan again, and I told her where I thought the trucks were. and they busted him, and they broke the ring, and he went to prison. And the girls were freed. When I was 21, I was living in San Francisco. Loved it. Oh, God. And I was in a club, and this man walked in. And I knew that he was a hitman, and I knew that he was there to kill someone. And I knew he had a sawed-off shotgun underneath his coat. I didn't see it. I knew it. So I called the owner of the place over, and I said, "You've got to contact the police immediately. That man right over there is a hitman. He's come here to kill someone, another man." So he listened to me. People listen to me. He called the police. It turned out that this man was one of the 10 most wanted. He was a hitman for the mafia. And they hauled him out of there. And I got a certificate from the San Francisco Police Department, which was really cool. Now understand, throughout all of this, I did not know what I was. Okay? I finally found out that I was called a psychic when I was about 18 years old. Up until then, I didn't know. I just thought I was weird. Everyone else thought I was a witch. But I was a Baptist, so I couldn't have been a witch. So this really nice woman kind of took me under her wing. And she began to teach me about who and what I am. And I began to realize that I wasn't a, quote, freak, which I had been called, that I was a psychic, knowledge from the soul, that my connection was solid, and that, oh, by the way, I forgot to tell you, I also saw dead people. Okay. They looked like you and me. They were alive. They never looked dead. I'd been doing that from the time I was 2, 3 years old. And I couldn't tell the difference. No one told me. So she explained a lot to me about what I was and what was going on, which helped me immensely, because no one had ever told me anything. And my parents, oh God, my father, my poor daddy had buried $70 to hide it from my mother. I found it and gave it to her. I was in constant trouble, always. Biggest problem I had was I would tell people things because I didn't know that I wasn't supposed to. And it would always be very accurate, but it would always get me into trouble. And I couldn't tell the difference between psychic information and regular talked knowledge. It was all scrambled. It was all the same to me. You should have seen what it was like going out on dates. I went out on a date with this guy that I'd been wanting to date forever. He was really cute. And I'm sitting there, and all of a sudden, I like bleep out, and I see him in his car on the passenger side, and I see the car in the woods going around this curve and going off. I didn't see him dying, but I saw him. His legs were very, very damaged. So I say to him, please, please, please don't let anybody else drive your car. Because I had learned that if you can see a part of the future, you can change it. Maybe not 100%, but you can change it. So, of course, he looked at me and went, the stuff I've been hearing about you is true, isn't it? You really are weird, aren't you? I said, I don't care. I have to tell you this because your legs, I don't want to see the damage done to your legs. I don't want this to happen to you. Week later, he goes off with a friend in the woods. He has dinner with him, and he got food poisoning, and so the friend drove his car. He went around the corner. The car went down. He lost the use of his legs. I got blamed for it. It was my fault. The witch. Broke my heart. Absolutely broke my heart. I tried not to date very much. Well, there weren't a whole lot that wanted to date me, obviously. I wasn't the most popular kid around. I fought being a psychic, the majority, I guess, almost the majority of my life. I was working in Arkansas. I was executive director of the Kidney Foundation of Arkansas. Okay? I was doing very well. I was very happy in my position, and I always knew what my board of directors were doing behind my back, which really messed up their heads because they didn't know what I was. Meanwhile, I'm working with the police. I am forever working with the police on murder cases, but I did it anonymously. No one ever knew because I didn't want them to know, because I didn't want to be a, quote, psychic. I wanted to be a regular person. So I'm working as executive director, and I get a phone call, and I'm wanted in Texas to be executive director down there. Now let me tell you what happened the night before, though. I was asleep. I woke up. There was a huge light coming in. The dog started barking. And I got up and I stood in that light, and they said, "It's time to go to work. It's time to gather your jewels." I said, "I can't. I don't know how to charge. I've been doing this work for free forever. You know, whoever needed help, I helped them." They said, "You will charge for your time because you are going to do this exclusively." I went, "Okay. Okay." I told my daughter about this. Then I got this phone call from San Antonio, Texas. They wanted to start me out at $50,000 a year, give me a nice place to live, a new car. I mean, it looked really good. My daughter says, "Mom, you made a promise." Okay. Yeah, I did. I turned the job down. That week, I was working on a murder case again, anonymously. It was the Wanda Isabel case. And she was out of Sherwood. She disappeared. And at that point in time, I had cracked the case. I saw who had killed her, why. I told the police. I even got her license plate number on the back of her car and what she was wearing when she disappeared and where she was taken. The next thing I know, the police show up on my doorstep. TV, newspapers, radio, they busted me out. From that day forth, I became a, quote, professional. I didn't have a choice. God said, "You're going to do this." I went, "Okay." Anyway, that gives you a little summation on my background. So if it's all right, we can play the video and then... Oh, God. What? Well, that's the reason I was going to open it up for questions. I can do that now if you want. Okay. Thank you.
You had just said that you saw the license plate number, and you saw this and you saw that.
Mm-hmm.
What do you physically or consciously have to do in order to get these visual images or auditory things? Do you go to a state of meditation, or just what do you do?
On this particular case, I was driving home from North Little Rock, Jacksonville to Little Rock. As I was driving, I got a total visual, which almost made it impossible for me to drive. And I saw this woman. She was dressed in a skirt, a white blouse. I saw her car, and I saw this man tormenting her, okay? And I saw the license plate. And I couldn't get the visual out of my head, so I made note of where I was at, which was Wildwood Road. And as soon as I got home, it was so stunning to me. I called the sheriff's department. I said, is there anyone that has put in a missing persons report about this woman? And I described the woman and the license plate. They said, we don't know anything about it. Okay. 2 days later, I am watching TV, and there is a news flash. Woman missing out of Sherwood. Wanda Isabel. Anybody with any information, please call. I picked up the phone. I said, I know you don't know me, and I know that you don't probably work with many psychics, if any, but this is my information. That's when everybody showed up at my house. I mean, everybody. Well, I had to work this in steps, okay? I then got her photograph from the family, because the family really believed that her ex-husband had killed her. So when I got the photograph of Wanda, I use psychometry. That's how I've learned to turn myself on and turn myself off. When I'm not touching, then I'm okay. So I've got her picture, and I'm touching into it. And I saw this young man, which I had flashed on the first time. And he's got on a Texaco uniform. He's got all these pins and gauges in his pocket, okay? And his name is there. So, I tell the police. I said, this is the man that did it. This is his first name. He works at the Texaco station. She stopped at the Texaco station, and he's close to her, but he's not real close to her. She knows him, and he talked her into letting him drive her car, I think to test it out, see if there was something wrong. Well, it turns out that he is, in fact, her boyfriend's nephew. Okay? So, he drove her and drove her and drove her for about 200 miles, tormenting her, and took her to her bank, made her get money out of the bank. He just kept tormenting her. And I'm telling the police this. And they said, okay, well, we can't do anything unless we have a body. We don't have a body. I'm going, okay. Body. We need a body. Okay, where is her body? I've got to have a picture of him. I need a picture of him because she doesn't know where she is. She's been driven all over the place. Finally, the police get me a photograph of him. I go under hypnosis so that I can get precisely what happened. Under hypnosis, I've got his picture. And I'm seeing a sign. And it looks like Jones Mill. And I'm seeing these places, these little houses, and I'm seeing him take her out to this Jones Mill area, and then I go through the actual death. I go through her death. And I'm not only going through her death, I'm going through what he's feeling as she is dying. I become both people. And I threw up for about 2 or 3 hours afterwards because he was sexually reacting to her pain. It was horrific. I had never touched into a serial murderer before. So I take the police out to Jones Mill, and I tell them, I said, her body's over there. Well, there's a fence there, ma'am. We can't cross the fence. That's private property. Okay. Well, why don't you go to the people that live on the top of the hill that obviously this fence surrounds and get their permission? They run up there. They're not at home, ma'am. We're just going to have to wait until some hunters find her. Now, you can smell her. We could smell her. There's no other smell on the face of this earth that is like a human body. It's got that sicky sweet. They wouldn't look. Ask me sometime how I feel about police. So, about 2 months later, oh, I have to tell you this. They tell me, if you cross the fence and find the body, we will put you in jail. And they meant it. I had to walk away. Well, I did some very, very heavy prayer work on this. I asked God, please expose her. Please let someone find her. Sure enough, some hunters stumble across her, and there she is. Meanwhile, they do arrest the guy that did it. They let him out on bond. And he left town with a 16-year-old girl who has never been seen since, with his mother, the retarded witch. Honest to God, witch, black witchcraft. They did find him recently, I will say that. Yeah, they did. They found him recently, and they rearrested him on the charges of Wanda Isabel. And that's only been last year. So many cases that I have worked on are so frustrating because there's very little appreciation. The families want to hide it. They don't want it exposed that they had a psychic working because we're of the devil. Okay? The police don't want it exposed because it means they're not doing their job. And they're scared to death for me to walk into the police department because I might pick up on all the garbage that they're doing. Matter of fact, one of my cases, the head of homicide told me they're scared to death for you to come in here. I said, you tell them to wear helmets. I won't be able to get into their heads. Guess who had helmets on? Now, how do I see this stuff? I see it in my head like a movie. And I usually get just super details. I mean, it's amazing, some of the details, particularly those cases that are mine, that I know I'm supposed to close. I'll get lots and lots of details, like even to the crystal of a watch breaking. When I am the victim, I am the victim. I feel what they feel, I think what they think, and I hurt. I'm telling you, I have been hit by a machete, shot, strangled, cutthroat, you name it, I have gone through it. But I would rather be the victim than the perpetrator. Because to get into their head is like being on the dark side of the moon. It's awful. It's just awful. I can tell you how to kill anybody. My husband's in grave danger. I guess the best way to say it is I become one.
When the visual images are coming, like they came when you were seated in your car and driving, but let's say that you're working on a case, and so you take time out from, say, the police station, go and sit in the room and like meditate? Or?
No, it's not a meditation. I just open to it. I literally, you can talk to me as I'm doing this. I open to it. I don't go into a trance or anything of that nature. It just starts flooding. It starts coming in. If it's my case, I'll get a flood of information. Sometimes they'll take me to where the murder took place, and I'll tell them, don't tell me anything. I'll walk into the place. I'll walk over. The body was here. She was murdered here, but he dragged her here. And he came in through there. Okay? I mean, it gets that distinct, that detailed. I don't do, oh, there's a body of water somewhere, and I think the body is close to the body of water. Yeah. Got you going, huh?
Thank you. Do you ever get told no?
What do you mean by that? Spiritually,
do you ever get one where they offer you a case and you're told that you can't go
Yes.
there?
Yes, I have had that. One of the cases that I recently filmed, it was one of my first cases actually on Psychic Detective. It was the kidnapped boy in Malvern, Arkansas. And he had been taken by these two guys. He was in front of the food mart, which is where he worked. He was a stock boy. And he was about 15 years old. And they grabbed him and they threw him in the truck and they took off with him. The family brought me in about a day or so into the cold case. And I tuned in and I told him, I said, okay, there's two guys involved. One guy is really, really big. He's got this belt buckle and cowboy hat and boots, and he's got, what do you call that? I can never think of the word. When the hunters wear it all the time. No, it's a outfit. Yeah. And the other guy is heavy too, not as heavy as he is. And I said, these two guys are dumb as dirt, and they don't know what they're doing. They just know he wants to kidnap this boy. So I told him, I said, okay. He took him out the back of the parking lot. He took him down to the left, to the right, to Ridge Road. Well, we go to Ridge Road. Well, now I'm in a police car. His mom and daddy are police, okay? They got guns. They're upset. These are not happy people. So we're driving down Ridge Road, and the energy stopped. It just completely stopped. I didn't know what happened. I was shut down. I totally shut down. Come to find out, I was 500 yards from the house that he was being kept in. The man had 14 guns in that house. An arsenal. I'm dealing with two parents with guns in the car, in a police car, driving straight to the house. I got shut down. Bloodbath. I had a man come in one time. He said, my wife wants me to work on the murder case of her sister. He handed me the sister. He was the murderer. I shut down. I did let him know later I knew. I did. I had to.
Yeah.
But yes, there are those.
But that was your protection, Carol.
Yeah, it's always been my
That
protection.
way you are protected.
Yeah.
But how do you shut these visions off afterwards? You said you can feel what they're feeling, and as the murderer and as the victim. When it's over, how do you get that out of your head?
Well, when I was younger, I didn't get it out of my head. I remember one case that I worked on was so bad. The man was murdered. He had his throat cut. He was hit in the head with an axe. He got hit with a hoe. And I felt every blow. And I made the horrific mistake of sitting in the chair with the blood so I could get full vision, so I could tell the police. And I was sick for a week. We're talking in the bed. And I said, God, I can't do this. You're going to have somebody else. I can't do it. I can't handle this. This is killing me. And it lifted. And I learned about salt baths. Okay? Iodized table salt, 1/3 of a cup in the bath water, get it from head to toe, it sweeps you clean. It's awesome. It's really awesome. And I learned to blank. When I would do a case, when I got done, I would blank it. It would go away. I stuck it in a back file. Now, I had to learn this by touching in, letting go. In the very beginning, I touched in and wouldn't let go. That's why I went so deep. Now I touch, let go. Touch, let go. Ground. Okay? So I have learned to protect myself. But I'm going to tell you, it took me a long time to get there. But that last case, that one did it for me. And my guides have always worked with me, the Holy Spirits. They've always been with me. But they won't tell you anything unless you ask them. So I began to ask the right questions. How do I protect myself? Help me. And they taught me about the salt, and they taught me everything that I know. And they taught me how to blank it out, and that saved me all the pain, except for one time when I got hit by a train. Don't ever get hit by a train. Ever. It took me 3 hours to recuperate. God. And that wasn't even a murder. But yeah, I've learned how to do these things. Yeah.
Do you ever have anyone come to you unsolicited
Oh,
to
yeah.
tell you that they have been killed?
You mean like the spirit?
The spirit itself, yes.
On occasion, what I found was a lot of times their spirits would take me over on some of the murder cases. There was one in Denton, Texas. It's shown on Psychic Detective. They didn't talk about that on the show, but it was called Flower Girl. When the police took me to where she had been abducted, I was in the police car and I was on the parking lot, and we were driving towards going out of the parking lot. She leaped into my body and I yelled, "I got shot! I'm shot!" She took me completely over, took the police to exactly, and right then and there, exactly where she was taken, because she was slowly bleeding to death, and where he put her out of the car on the ground before he kicked her throat in. She stayed with me, and I was able to locate, he took her 5 places. I was able to go to each place, and I could explain to the police why and how. Great case, great case. It's a shame they didn't do it right.
I just was wondering what was James thinking during that time, your husband?
James was at home.
He wasn't living with you at that time.
Yeah, we were, yeah.
I mean, he wasn't in the same room when you were having
No.
all this happening, okay?
No. Although spirits used to frequent the house and tell my husband, "Good morning." Which I thought was cute. He didn't. They don't do that so much anymore. I've learned how to keep that down too. But yes, I've had in the past where they've leaped into my body, and I always get them into the light afterwards, because I make sure there's a finalization, not only for them, because by that point they're really not out to get the murderer. They understand, but they want the family to have closure. It's so important for the families. Now, it's like certain cases, I get all kinds of information, and then there are other cases, it's not time. And I'm not supposed to close that case. It's not supposed to come to its conclusion. The murderer is supposed to go out and have a family and make babies or whatever the case may be. In all honesty, I've had that happen. I had the case in El Dorado where the murderer he murdered this young woman, he married her best friend, had a child, shot a policeman. It was for about 3 or 4 years before he got caught, before he confessed. So I know that there is a time, and it's in God's time, not in mine. And I want you to know I am extremely spiritual. I'm not religious, although I founded my own church in the state of Arkansas and was accepted. And I am a legitimate minister. I can perform funerals and weddings and tell them how they got there. Yes. She's got her.
You spoke of prayer work, which is very important to me. When you are working a case where a victim is still alive, have you had any success using prayer work to protect or aid in the rescue of that victim?
Oh, yeah, thanks. Yeah. The boy that was kidnapped from in front of the food mart, I was tuning into him on a daily basis. I didn't tell the parents that he was being raped and tortured. I couldn't do it. I wouldn't want to be told. But I saw them like putting a gun to his head and playing Russian roulette. I saw a lot, and I was telling the parents what I could tell them without scaring them to death, letting them know he's still alive, he's still alive. And then the last time I tuned into him, the kidnapper took him outside, and he had dug 3 holes. And he said, "This hole's for your daddy, this hole's for your mama, this hole's for you. You're gonna die." And I knew that he meant it. Now, normally I don't intercede. You understand? There is free will. I cannot go against free will. But the parents had given me free will here, so to speak. And I got the okay, if you will, and I sat down with 2 other people, and we did a prayer, and I asked that he be released harmlessly in a safe area where there would be people that could get him safely to his parents to no harm to them. And this was a very particularly powerful prayer. A few hours later, he was released. Now, I didn't learn. Thank you. Thank you. I have done this. I had a young boy who decided that he was going to hitchhike down the freeway. He was like 11 years old. And I told the parents, I said, oh my God, because they wanted to know what happened to him. I said, he's trying to hitchhike down the freeway. Oh my God, can I please do a prayer for him? I got my 3 people, did this prayer. He was picked up by a minister, taken to the church. Church called the parents. He got picked up, all within the hour. I do it on occasion if I'm told to do it, but I will not intercede unless I feel it's correct and right, because I know things have to happen. It's lessons for people, and that's what we're here for. That's what this whole place is about. It's all about lessons, spiritual lessons. It's not for paying bills, not for having kids, not for getting married. It's all spiritual lessons. So I do my very best with what I've got, with the people that come into my life or brought to me, or that I'm brought into their lives. But all the while, I know it's okay. There's no such thing as death. How can you die? You're energy. You're created by God and you live forever. God help all of us. So I don't get so harmed when I work on murder cases, because I understand the bigger picture of it. I understand that this is all temporary. It's not a permanent thing. And I always, every case I've ever been brought into, I always made sure that the soul was taken into the light, that they were safe. They were guided into that light and not caught into the trauma. I always ask that the trauma be removed. So I try to stay up here looking at this space like it's that big. And that keeps my head straight. Any questions now? Yes? Then you say.
Does the amount of time pass since the murder occurred matter in your
No.
solving a case?
No, actually, I've worked with the Arkansas History Commission on murders that span back 150 years. The time doesn't matter. The energy remains. Unless you cleanse off that energy, it'll be there for another 1,000 years. Or you burn it down. Remove the energy.
That would be a powerful energy when something with the emotions, I guess, with the crime, that would make it stay, wouldn't it?
Oh, yeah. Your
powerful
energy, everything that you think, everything that you say, everything that you do permeates your clothing, your jewelry, your furniture, your house, the buildings that you're in. The more trauma that's radiated out, it goes in. I come along with my little antennas. Oh, there was a murder here. I'm like a walking antenna.
Okay. You know, Carol, I was thinking, do you have to walk around with a shield around you to block out all these things or not?
Well, I tried that. I went to Chicago, the streets of Chicago. That was very interesting. I try to keep shielded up. What I try to do is kind of like pull in a little bit and kind of shut down a little bit, but sometimes it still gets in.
Because I figure you have to try to turn it off sometimes.
When I'm at home.
Have you ever been called in or investigated at all the Morgan Nick case?
Oh, yeah. Actually, I was called in by Channel 7. They showed up on my doorstep. They handed me a photograph of Morgan Nick, and I gave them a great deal of information. They went to Morgan Nick's mother, and she refused to accept or allow the police to work on the information. She had religious beliefs that went against using a psychic. So, I do what I can.
When you were dealing with that mafia case, the hitman, or any other case like a high profile case, has your life been ever been threatened by that kind of group?
No. I don't know why. I think I'm just extremely protected. I mean, I really am. I had one, I've never been threatened. Well, I've had little threats. But see, I know I can't die before my time. So I don't worry about it. I'm here to do what I'm supposed to do, and God's not going to let anybody take me out until it's my time. And when it's my time, I won't care. It's okay. Where it was a woman, her husband disappeared. She claimed that he went to see his mother at the cemetery. This was in Jacksonville years ago. And so the family brought me his photograph. I tapped into his photograph. I said, he has been murdered by his wife and her boyfriend. He is not at the cemetery. They have got him planted close to the river, and I gave them the area where he was. Well, the family tells the wife what I said. Duh. She calls the boyfriend. They move the body. And every time the family comes to me, they're telling her what I'm saying. Again, they moved this body 3-4 times. Okay? They finally put the boyfriend, no, they didn't put him in then. I told them that he had buried this man on his parents' ranch. And if they would go immediately, they could catch him in the act. Okay? They listened to me, and they went and they caught him. They put him in jail. I tuned into the man. I got this message. You're in danger. I tuned into the man. He's plotting my murder in the jail cell. He's getting ready to get out on bond. So I called the bondsman, a friend of mine, had her talk to the judge to get the bond eliminated. So he didn't get bonded out. I'm not dead. Yeah.
How about conspiracy cases like JFK or 9/11? Do you get information like that?
Sometimes, yeah.
Do you do anything with it?
Only if I'm told to. If I'm told to, I will. Again, I don't have the right to interject if it's not appropriate. 9/11 was a huge wake-up call. It was huge. I got the information, not before. What I got was that there was going to be a huge earthquake. It didn't turn out to be an earthquake. right?
Symbolically.
Well, yeah, I was in a way. Immediately afterwards, I got immediately, and I had people writing this down, that it was the Taliban. There were 5 countries involved, which they never admitted to all of that, and a lot of the information and why it had to happen and why it did happen. So yeah, I do get spiritual information, but I didn't get enough information to stop it. Had I gotten that information, I would have stopped it. And I say I would have. I literally would have. Because when I have that, I know that I am supposed to do that, and it will be done.
I think about multiple personalities. I know about multiple personalities. I happen to know someone whose mother has multiple personalities, and it changes back and forth. She's old and ill, but sometimes she's better and responds to remedies, and sometimes she gets worse, and the doctors don't understand either one. But I'm thinking, if you see a murderer who has multiple personalities, are you guided to the personality that did the murder? But can you be aware that it has other personalities if he had switched over to a different personality?
Well, with this particular case, I knew that Al was the killing personality, okay? I knew that he was a multiple. I didn't even focus in on any of the other personalities. I focused in on the murderer exclusively. But I'm going to tell you something, and you can believe me or not believe me. I don't care. I have found I work with a lot of multiple personalities, and I clear a lot of multiple personalities. And I'm sorry, but multiple personalities is not split psyches. These are human spirits that attach and take over. That's right. And they're multiple personality is in effect possession by human spirits. And I have cleared them. I've worked in the area of depossession work since 1986, 87. And I've worked with doctors, psychiatrists, and gotten wonderful results.
So schizophrenia is not multiple personality?
No, schizophrenia is something entirely different. And there is schizophrenia and there is schizophrenia. I had one who was schizophrenic. He had spirits attached to him, but he had an allergy to the coffee bean, which created the schizophrenia. It's a backlash of the allergy to the coffee bean.
Which came through the DNA of their families?
It can be genetic, most definitely. Got him off of coffee, got the spirit cleared from him. He was fine, but then he got upset because he wasn't collecting a check from the psychiatrist and from the VA. So I said, well, drink some coffee.
Well, you know, we're getting more there, but Carol, I was thinking there's time she can go into when she worked with the hidden tunnels under the Sphinx.
Oh God.
Because to me, that's amazing. But you're still working with that over there too, aren't you?
No.
Not as much? Or
Boris Said passed about 2 years ago.
Okay.
And I was working with J.J. Hertek,
Yeah.
Boris Said. They're the ones that really got me in, Dr. Shore. And apparently he's got Alzheimer's now.
That's what PMH said?
Yeah. So my connection there is no longer, which it'll be interesting. Who knows? I might end up going back there.
Well, let's talk.
Please, that would be wonderful.
We'll talk about when you were doing it and you went down under there, because that was interesting.
Okay. Well, let me give you a little brief on this. Boris Said was the producer and the director of The Mysteries of the Sphinx with Charlton Heston. Okay? I met Boris in New York, where I was working with multiple personalities and psychiatrists and training them. And when I met Boris, the weirdest thing happened. I took his hand and I said, Boris, when you go to Egypt to open up the chambers under the Sphinx, I want to be there, and I will be there. He looked at me, he said, Miss Carol Pate, when I do this, you will be there. I said, oh, okay. And then we just kind of started talking. It was really not norm. Anyway, I got this urgency to get back into contact with Boris. It was, and I hadn't talked to him for a very long time, okay? But this urgency, I called Boris. I said, Boris, you're getting ready to get in those chambers. You're there at the Sphinx, aren't you? He said, yeah, how did you know? I don't know. He said, you're going to have to call Dr. Shore, and you're going to have to get his permission, because otherwise, he said, I can't take you. Dr. Shore is doing all of this. I said, okay. So he gave me Dr. Shore's phone number. So what the heck? I called Dr. Shore. And I told Dr. Shore, I said, I need to go to the Sphinx and help you with the chambers underneath the pyramid, and also locating the tunnels that run from the pyramids to the Sphinx. He goes, I've already got some psychics that are going. I said, well, Dr. Shore, if it's God's will that I'm supposed to be there, I will be there. He said, well, I just don't, maybe I'll talk to you later. I'll talk to Boris. I said, oh, okay. I get a call. And Boris says, Dr. Shore says that there's no room, there's no money allocated for you to go. And I said, well, Boris, you know, I'm supposed to be there. I said, it'll work out however it's supposed to. He said, okay. So I go to New York, I'm doing another workshop on multiple personalities to psychiatrists. Up, Clarence, who picked me up, who was very good friends with Boris, said, oh, by the way, you have an appointment to go see Dr. Shore while you're here doing the workshop. Really? I said, yeah. I said, okay. Well, I had been getting information on the airplane coming into New York, all about the Sphinx, the history, ETs, all kinds of, that it went back like 10,500 years, and in actual truth went back 60,000 years. Yeah. So I went to my meeting with Dr. Shore, who was, oh my God, he had a suite that was this size. It was unbelievable, beautiful place at the top of the building. I think it was like right there next to the World Trade Center. And I set myself down and I say, hello, Dr. Shore. And Dr. Shore says to me, tell me something that will show that you need to go to Egypt. I said, okay. Well, let's see. It all started 60,000 years ago, and there is information that's been found about ET connection with the building of the pyramids, and I just started spewing out all this information. Dr. Shore's eyes got like that, you know, like the size of a saucer. He said, he looked at me really odd. He said, can you duck bullets? I said, sure. Do you have any little kids? No. He said, you're going to Egypt. I said, it's God's will. I told you I'd go to Egypt. And I went to Egypt. Dr. I had to have breakfast, lunch, and dinner with him. He would not let me out of his sight. Boris or J.J. Hertek. Now, I don't know if you know about J.J. Hertek. Wonderful. And so I didn't know what to do with him. He was like driving me crazy. So finally, after a while, he took me out to the plateau, and it overwhelmed me. I'm here to tell you, I was completely overwhelmed. I've never felt anything like that in my life. And he said, oh, I've got to tell you this. Before all of this occurred, I told Boris a while back that there was a well beside the causeway that is the entrance to the tunnel, that he had to get into that well to find the entrance to the tunnel. Okay, enough said. Anyway, Dr. Shore took me to this well, and all the water was dried out of it. And it was 300 feet deep. And it had a little ladder made of metal that had little rungs that you had to climb down 300 feet. And it was muddy. Okay. So I climbed down. First, not level, sarcophagus. Nobody's sarcophagus. Third level, a temple. Under the ground. As I enter, there is a square, and there's still water down there. Out. Hello? Yeah. Use this one. Will this collide with this? Anyway, off to the left, there is a black granite sarcophagus lid sitting on the ground. And there are human remains spread all over the floor. Boris says to me, he was already down there, he said, "Can you pick up on what happened?" I said, "I'll try." I had to pick up a leg bone. I held the leg bone in my hand. I said, "This is the area where they sealed off the tunnel leading from the Great Pyramid to the base of the Sphinx. It is underneath this sarcophagus lid. There was a huge battle that took place down here. This was a temple, and the priests were slaughtered, but they were able to seal the entry before they were slaughtered. And these are the bones of those priests. They gave their life. Later, much later, Hawaz finally opened the sarcophagus lid. He would not give us permission, of course. When they opened it, there was a tunnel that led from the Great Pyramid to the base of the Sphinx. Yeah. It was pretty wild. I spent about 23 days at the Giza Plateau, and I went into every place there was there. I spent time in the Queen's Chamber. I spent 3 hours in the King's Chamber. I was in, if I said I want to go in there, they would unlock it, and I went in there. I had full reign. It was amazing, absolutely amazing. And I had some rather unique experiences there as well. I don't know that I should even go into those because they're... Well, I'm walking in between these, what would you call them? I'm not even sure what you'd call them. Cliffs, I guess. And all of a sudden, this priest appears before me. He's got on a skull cap that looks like burnished gold. And he's got robes on with little teeny squares of brown and gold. Brown and gold. And he's got this material around his neck, and there are olive leaves. It's all olive leaves. And he's got very high cheekbones. And he says to me, I am health put. He said, you are Carol Pate. He said, you are here to do work. I am here to help you. He said, come with me. And he took me to an area that was off of the causeway. And it looked kind of like a very small temple. And I looked at the back of it, and there was a flying disc that was very large, and it stood out to me. And I asked him, I said, why the flying disc? He said, because they came here that way. I went, okay. And then I could hear all these people, you know, the Egyptians that were trying to sell you stuff. There was a whole flutter of voices, and he just disappeared. Well, I told Dr. Shore about this, which was real interesting. He was pretty open. Dr. Shore was remarkably open. I tried to explain to him this whole thing was spiritual. It wasn't about the material. It was about spiritual. And I told him about the flying disc and where it was. He said, really? That's very interesting, because several of the teachers have talked about going to that specific spot and seeing this flying disc. But let me show you something. Okay. He takes me to that exact same area. There's no flying disc. It's not there. And the same thing that happened to, I think, 2 or 3 other people, not with the priest, but with the flying disc. Melchizedek, that had happened to him as well. Uh-huh. Uh-huh. Yeah, they had gone to that same location, had seen the flying disc. It happened to Boris. He had gone to the same place, had seen the flying disc, but it's not there. Never was there. Then the priest reappeared to me and told me that there's a temple underneath and I needed to go under. So I went, okay. So I went under. Boris was with me this time. He said, Carol, do you know that there are like cobras and, you know, dangerous stuff down there? I said, I'm safe. I'm okay. I'm always safe. So I slid down there, and it was pretty good size down there. And then I was told that where all these rocks were tumbled, there was a tunnel that led to an underground temple that held all the gold that they had taken out of the temples when the people had overthrown the priesthood. So I know where that gold is. I have a problem. I can't get there and go dig for it, but I know where it is. So it was pretty wild. I'll probably never have that kind of opportunity again, but then again I might. You never know. Those chambers have not been opened yet. Tom DeBecky, who is wonderful, he does sounding, okay? He went there and he did sounding. There are 9 chambers. There is the tunnel, the antechamber, which is only 12 feet down. And from there are 9 chambers, or rather 8 chambers, and they're staggered. There's a huge chamber under the right paw of the Sphinx. And during the sounding, there are things in those chambers. They're not empty chambers. They're full of things. They don't know what things. I've got a pretty good idea. I know there's some crystals there that have information that have been placed in them. I know that. In a sense, my information is that it was a place of initiation, had been all along until the overthrow. And then it got sealed up. Everything was sealed up. It was not a tomb. Yes, absolutely. It was a labyrinth.
Carol, is there anything under the back paws, under the back of the Sphinx?
Yes.
That's the information I have, that there's a lot of the hidden records back there.
That whole plateau is covering all kinds of temples. It is, and it goes beyond. It just keeps going. There's all kinds of temples and tombs. The temples came first. There, at one time, it was a very lush, green, fabulous place. But it got changed.
That's the information I had. The temples came before the Sphinx and before the pyramids.
Yeah.
The whole, I likely want to say, cult or whatever that existed there, especially the cat women.
Yeah, Bass.
No, the cat women before all of that happened. You know.
There's so much involved on that. I'm telling you, 60,000 years. Did you know there is a sea anemone on the ear of the Great Sphinx that's fossilized? Hello. They won't tell you. You can see it. If you look for it, you can see it. It's there. There's 2 or 3 of them. It was under an ocean for a period of time. Mm-hmm.
That's what they had in that documentary, wasn't it? That they proved it was underwater. The whole Sphinx was at one time.
I got to see it up front and personal. I got to stand in between the paws of the Sphinx. I got to sit at the front paw of the Sphinx. I was Miss Queen there, let me tell you. Nefertiti. Huh? She needs a mic. Oh, I've got my mic.
You got the mic and I got the mic, okay.
Well, I guess I'm going to show my ignorance here, but if you know what's there and you've told them what's there, why aren't they going there? I mean, like with the paw and the what's inside.
You want the long and short of it?
Politics?
Religion. You have a religious base, Christian and also, what's the other one? Muslim, Islamic, that are based on 6,000 years. The Egyptians want the world to believe that they built. Yeah. They want the whole world to know that they have done all this fabulous construction. The fact of the matter is, they didn't. And they do not want this exposed under any circumstances, and that whatever is in those chambers, they will do anything in their power to stop those chambers from being opened.
But do you think in time that this is all going to unfold?
I think in time, yeah. I don't know what that time is, and I sure hope I'm there when it happens, and I don't want to be on a walker. Yeah, I think when it is time for mankind to awaken to the oneness and get out of their little spaces of their personal religious, political choices, then a lot of these things will clear and they'll be opened. But until then, no, won't happen. I think I came the closest to it. Sad. It's really sad. Any other questions? I'm doing good.
Oh, okay, well, okay.
Your turn.
No, I was thinking with the internet now and all the instant information, they're not going to be able to keep all this hidden too much longer. Too many people like us know what's really going on. You know?
We know what's going on, but you have a government there that is locked down. And they won't let you get in there. When we found that when that sarcophagus lid, it should have been raised. They should have allowed that.
Yeah.
It would have been to their benefit, but they didn't seem to think that.
Have you written a book? And if not, you should.
I agree. I have written a book, but it's not like out there. It's about depossession work. And it's one of those that unless you're really seriously interested, it gets into the multiple personalities, it gets into all of that. I am hoping to do some books.
That's what I was thinking, Carol, you were talking about doing your autobiography.
Yeah.
And there's been other people that approached me to write her biography, and she said, no, nobody could do it except her. And they think they can do it justice, but I figured you'd have to do it yourself.
I need someone to just record it and type it.
Why don't you do it with a tape recorder?
Yeah. Well,
But-
I've got other things. I'd like to do a book on auras. There's no decent books out there on auras. They lie.
Okay.
They do.
That's your next project. You start from childhood and just write your whole life story. Okay. Be a book about that thick. Okay.
No one's going to believe it.
Well, who cares?
Oh, that's true. That's true. It's a thought. She has to have a microphone.
We got about 10 more minutes. We got a lot of questions.
Okay, you just spoke of auras. Do the murderers that you found, do they have a certain type of aura?
Yeah, it depends on which kind of murderer they are. Serial murderers have a murky red aura, okay? Which is root chakra, which is the color red, which is passion, sexuality, anger, primitive instincts. Yeah, they do have this reddish, murky, those that are real serial murderers have a blackness around them. Satanists, I found, have black, true Satanists, not wannabes, have real honest-to-God black auras. People that are going to die, their aura begins to leave their body. They begin to go in and out. And there's a black line that separates the aura from the body. I mean, you can physically see this. But it can be changed. I've done it. I had a person that I saw the black line. I saw her aura leave. And she was planning a trip to Memphis. And her husband was going to try to kill her while she was there, make it look like a mugging. I got her to stop the trip. He confessed to the brother, and her aura came back, and it was all lavender. It's so pretty. Yeah. And you can feel when you're, pardon? Yeah. Yeah. In my book. I got to have help. They're going to die.
Yeah.
They're going to die. It disappears from the body anywhere from 2 weeks to 72 hours.
What is the basic aura of our group?
Alive. Right.
I was with my doctor one day, and I was looking at him, and I said, Dr. Bill Reimer, he's the one who saved me after my near-death experiences.
Mm-hmm.
And I was looking at Bill, and I said, Bill, you don't have any aura. Go to the hospital immediately. He did. He would have been dead in about 2 to 3 hours.
Yeah.
But he went right away. They were able to save him, and his aura, of course, came back.
Isn't that amazing?
But
how
he
that
had
works?
no aura at all.
Yeah.
Something to do with the heart. I'm not quite sure.
When the black appears.
Well, he didn't have black. I mean, there was no
I understand. But when the black appears, that means you're in danger. Yeah. You're in danger. When there's no aura at all, it means you could die. You're going to die. Yeah. Because I got on a plane once. See, I look at everybody's auras when I get on planes. I want to make sure the plane isn't going to crash. Okay? Well, I got on the plane and I looked, and this was in Dallas, Texas, and I looked, it was a friend that was with me. I looked at her, and there was a black line. I looked at my arm and hand, there was a black line. I looked at everybody in there, and there was black lines, and I went, oh my God, this plane's going to crash. She fakes a heart attack. Boy, she was good, too. She fakes this heart attack, and we get off the plane, and when the plane heads off, it heads off into a whole line of tornadoes. They shut the airport down. It took 20 minutes. My aura came back, but it took 20 minutes. And during that time, I felt disconnected. If we had not gotten off that plane, I'm here to tell you it would have been destroyed. If you take away a little piece, doesn't have to be much, a little piece, it's enough to shift it. Yeah.
Well, that's what I found in my work, that the body is a totally separate entity, and it can exist for a while even after the soul is gone.
Yeah.
And they're separate. That's why in violent deaths, you don't have to worry about it. The person is not really in the body experiencing it.
Oh, no.
They're out of there.
I want to know, is there any validity to these machines that they set up at psychic fairs?
No.
I'm so glad to hear that, because at one psychic fair, I looked like one of those clown wigs that had all the colors in it. And the next psychic fair, I was murky red. And though I have thought murderous thoughts from time to time, I've never been a serial murderer, nor am I filled with anger, so I'm glad you said that.
It's mirrors. There's a lot of garbage out there, people. I'm sorry to say that. The new age is just filled with trash.
And fake psychics.
Lots of fake psychics. Oh, my God. Yeah. It's a shame, but there's money. And where there's money, you're going to have people that are going to take advantage of the situation. So be wary. Trust your gut. Your gut's going to tell you. You know. If it looks too good to be true, it's too good to be true. Yeah. Oh, you need a microphone. You got it.
With what you saw about 9/11 and the 5 countries that were involved, and the work that Dolores has done about Nostradamus and the Antichrist, do we know who that is currently?
Bin Laden's doing pretty good. With the 9/11, I heard very distinctly Bin Laden, and the 5 countries were Afghanistan, Pakistan, Iraq, Iran, and Syria.
Dolores says that Bin Laden is not the Antichrist. Do you have a second guess?
Nope.
No.
I think we just have to wait. He's supposed to have a blue turban, isn't he? Okay. I haven't gotten anything one way or the other on that. Sure we can. I'm not political, by the way.
No, I'm not either. Okay. No, I'll be brief. It's about multiple personalities because, again, it's an experience with a friend whose mother's 84 now, and she's been off and on dying for quite a long time, thinner, so on. And the two personalities, one, as I said, will recover when given certain medicines to a certain degree. The other won't. And my friend says she knows it's two personalities, and nurses don't. And the question is, if one of them is ready to go and pass over and pass on, and the other is not, can one actual personality prevent that happening?
Absolutely.
It can. And yeah.
So with multiple personality, when they take over the physical body, they change the whole chemical structure.
Right.
Absolutely. Even to eyesight, hearing, sometimes even looks, blood also shows it.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a complete total change because it's a complete total person.
Really?
But they're already dead.
But they
don't have
here.
their own physical body. One's tired of playing in that physical body is what it amounts
But
to.
she's been that way all her life. She had 4 personalities before, and I don't know if my prayers stopped 2 of them from working, but there's still 2 struggling.
Probably more.
Well, there were a lot more, but...
What happened is, okay, autism, for instance. Autism is a soul not completely entering the physical body. They're partly in and partly out. That's why they see everything energetically. They're not completely in the body. Multiple personality. If a soul comes in, and they're not supposed to necessarily have that body, there can be a fight for that fetus to where 2 or 3 or more can come in all at the same time. It's relatively rare, but it does happen. Sometimes this occurs as twins or twins that don't quite make it. Like 1 twin will and 2 will die. Okay? You have no idea of how complex the spiritual is. It's everything.